Hello, bonjour and welcome to your new wine video. I'm your host Julien, and today we're going to be looking at one of the most enjoyable and fascinating sides of wine, and that's pairing it with food, obviously. And to get us started, as I'm sure there will be more videos on this topic if you guys enjoy it, we are going to be looking today at the 5 classic clichés about how supposedly some wines should be paired with certain foods, and some general rules you hear many talk about that aren't necessarily true. Clichés are sometimes okay, but generally speaking, to know and appreciate something really well, especially wine, you just have to go a little further, take a closer, deeper look into it to truly understand what's going on. And that's exactly what I suggest we do today. Let's go! My fellow wine-loving friends, Julien here. Before we get started with the video, there is something that you have to know about. This video was made possible by the Bonner Private Wine Partnership, and the reason I work with them is not just because it's been called the most unique wine club in America, but because they truly love the wines that they choose for you. Founded by Will Bonner, the partnership is a small group of wine lovers who have come together to import excellent small batch wines that might otherwise get completely overlooked by large importers. They get them. Right now you can get your hands on 3 rare extreme altitude red wines from Argentina, from some of the purest, highest vineyards in the entire world, way up in the Andes Mountains. No middlemen, no additive packed supermarket wines here, no inflated costs. Plus you'll get exclusive access to more wine education videos from me, just like the one you're about to watch, to make sure you become an educated wine connoisseur. So make sure to check out the link in the video description to see if you want to become partner in something truly special in the world of wine. But for now, back to your video. So I guess white wine is always going to be a safe choice with fish and seafood dishes. I'm not going to contradict this, simply because fish generally has more subtle and elegant flavors, and so has white wine compared to red wine. So it's obvious and it makes sense. That said, it doesn't mean that white wine is always going to be the better choice, and especially it certainly doesn't mean that it's always going to be the best possible pairing for a given fish dish. Also, well, you know, some people simply prefer to have red wine, or you're at a restaurant and you've ordered red wine and you really feel like having some red wine, but you like to enjoy a fish dish with it as well, which is perfectly fine. It is perfectly okay to pair red wine with a fish dish, but you must have a few things in mind before you do so. There are 2 things to consider here. Firstly, the texture of the fish and its level of roasting, or the caramelization, the browning at the surface during cooking on the outside of the fish. Take salmon for example. A poached or slow cooked fillet will have a soft, smooth texture and elegant, delicate flavors that will be more likely to pair well with a white wine for sure. But a roasted salmon will definitely have much heartier texture and much stronger flavors that will go well with light styles of red wines. Same will go with tuna and certain species more strongly flavored white fish too. The second element to consider is obviously the sauce and how the fish is prepared. Even a delicate white fish like cod, if served, on a spicy or rich tomato-based red sauce, can definitely stand up to a red wine. With fish though, you have to go with light fruit-driven reds with good acidity and not much tannins, like fruity Pinot Noirs, Beaujolais or Gamay wines. You'll also find some young Spanish wines that are made from Grenache, that are quite light and that go super well, and some fruity Italians, and I often recommend some light Valpolicellas. Also, you can take the problem the other way around. You may have a nice bottle of red wine that you really want to enjoy, but what you've planned on cooking on that day is going to be fish. Well, you can adjust your recipe and your cooking to accommodate a red wine better. Consider adding some more earthy ingredients to the dish that will make the pairing more harmonious but still go well with fish. Such ingredients as mushroom, root vegetables, squash, nuts or roasted potatoes will absolutely do the trick and pair fantastically well with red wine. Everything I've said around fish goes with poultry. Some may argue that poultry only goes with white wine. Again, based on the type of cooking technique and the recipe, the chicken, the duck, the turkey and the likes will have a wide variety of flavor profiles and textures into the dish, with even more freedom here to pair with a bigger variety of red wine styles and even bolder red wine styles, obviously with poultry that go really fantastically well, if you ask me. Now that's a very interesting one, and maybe that's just because I'm French, but even though I'm French, I don't even know when and where the red wine with cheese cliché started and how and who. Quite possibly it did start in France, in fact. Well, I really don't know. But anyways, perhaps indeed, again, you are safer picking up a red wine and a glass of red wine with your cheese platter, as some cheeses might be so strong and powerful that they will simply overpower delicate white wines. But think about all the delicious combinations that are available to you to experiment with in a quest for extraordinary sensations and to elevate your cheese and your wine all at the same time if you allow yourself to play with white wines and cheese combinations as well. Think about, I love a crisp Chardonnay that will cut through the creaminess of a mild camembert or a brie style cheese, this rich, creamy, nutty style of cheeses. Well, Chardonnay is just perfect for this. And there's much more, it's a much more delicate combination than with a bold Cabernet Sauvignon, for example. Then a nice grassy, citrusy and zingy Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand or from the Loire or for even, California, the Napa Valley, on goat cheese, that can be absolutely phenomenal, while most reds will taste quite harsh against the acidity of that type of cheese. Also, a late harvest sweet wine or an off-dry white wine on blue cheese, well, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Another example of a delightful pairing. Now sure, some cheeses arguably do pair best with red wines, such as the hearty ones, the firm and aged hard cheeses like Gouda, cheddar, aged Manchego, the Spanish Manchego or the Italian Pecorinos. Those will certainly be wonderful with your Cabernet Sauvignon, your Merlot, your Syrah, your Zinfandel, Tempranillo, Sangioveses and the like. Much like for cheeses, it is a common cliché to assume that the rich dishes like the lasagnas, lasagna is a typical example, or the mac and cheese, or rich stews, a meat pie, or fat barbecue meats are better with a rich, bold red, which does make sense as well. Well, I won't say that they can't go well together. The bold flavors of your red wine are going to go well with the bold flavors and the richness of your dish as well. But you could see it from a completely different perspective, and let's go with that and think, well, the dish is rich and strong in flavors, so let's go with a lighter option which will make everyone feel much lighter and brighter after eating, and you can use your wine more like a palate cleanser rather than an extra layer of opulence and richness in your combination and in your meal. Many white wines like a dry Pinot Gris or a dry Riesling will do that extremely well. How does that sound? I think simply the key element here is probably not to pair too complex a wine with bold flavors. So whether that's a red, a rosé or a white wine, if you choose a lower in alcohol, lighter bodied, a crisp and dry style, a relatively simple wine will give everyone a chance to rest between bites here and there, and I'm sure this will please a lot of people as well. It's always best to have several options. So of course, champagne sparkling wines, well, they are festive, they are joyful, and they are synonymous with celebrations, and so are cakes very often as well. And they do work reasonably well together, sure. The only problem here is that very sweet cakes, like these sweet frosted cakes, for example, with a lot of sugar, well, they don't really allow much of an appreciation for the wine itself, especially if we're talking about a fine cuvée of expensive champagne. Plus, if you're having the cake after the meal, well, everyone is generally going to be too full by then to really enjoy the wine's nuances and the delicate balance that has been crafted and put into those delicate, super refined wines. So why not rather serve your delicate and complex champagne as an aperitif before the meal, while everyone's taste buds are still acute and still ready to enjoy and appreciate the fullness and the completeness of the wine. And I suggest you serve instead a sweet or lightly sweet Italian Moscato. You still want a zingy and fresh and crisp and vibrant wine, not too sweet, or a very good alternative with cake that I find is a nice Prosecco. And you can invest maybe a little bit more into a finer Prosecco, like a Prosecco Valdobbiadene, but I find this is a fantastic alternative to spoiling, well, I'd say spoiling your champagne with a sweet, very sweet, opulent cake. I think it's really not for me or any expert to really tell you what's right or wrong to do. It's down to simple enjoyment, and that's the most important part of it. But I think the key point is to approach it with an open mind and curiosity, and not to rely on preconceived ideas or clichés, as I tried to illustrate today. The goal here is to elevate both the dish and the wine. You know how the sum is greater than its parts. It's a rare sensation when you have a wine and a dish that combines so well. It makes for fireworks and explosion of flavor combinations you've never experienced before. But it's true that for the rare times it happens, and it doesn't happen often enough, but it's a quest well worth pursuing. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you soon with great pleasure into the next one. I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Santé! Cheers!